So there were obviously a lot of very high-profile Holocaust trials or trials against Nazi war criminals in the immediate aftermath of the Second World War, mostly presided over by the Allies, or indeed by Poland itself, which tried and then sentenced, obviously famously, Höss, the commandant of Auschwitz, but also there was a fairly substantial Stutthof trial that took place under the auspices of the Polish authorities. And then when West Germany was created in 1949, there was still a fairly large number of cases going through, but that very quickly slowed down. And in fact, not only was the number of convictions very small, but also the sentences were overwhelmingly quite modest, and frankly, given the crime that we're talking about, not really commensurate. And this carried on until the early 1960s, when in Frankfurt a famous Auschwitz trial took place. This was the first really systematic attempt by German prosecutors and the German judiciary to prosecute the murders that took place in Auschwitz. But what happened in this trial was that the judge handed down a sentence that, though almost certainly inadvertently, made life much more difficult for subsequent prosecutions, because what was established at the time was at a very high standard of proof. So effectively, the message that prosecutors and judges took away from this trial in the early 60s was that to prosecute a Nazi or an SS man in connection with the Holocaust, you had to show that there was a concrete murder that had taken place. So you effectively had to show that concentration camp officer A murdered victim B and C on a certain date and in a certain place. Now, this was obviously a standard of proof that was incredibly difficult to meet. Coupled with this problem was the challenge that the sentences that were handed down in the Frankfurt Auschwitz trial were, again, fairly mild. So this then acted as a big disincentive for prosecutors to go after the sort of small fry, the camp personnel that was lower down the hierarchy. And effectively, this meant that in the 70s and 80s and 90s, when tens of thousands of potential perpetrators were still alive, there was almost nothing that was done to bring them to justice.